My name's Julian. I'm in Sydney. I'm Sydney based, and I come down here every once in a while. Oh, hello. Please ask any questions, and we'll go from there. Brandon, just tell us what you're doing there, mate.
So right now I'm breaking down the brisket. So a lot of this fat is quite firm. When you try and smoke through this absorbs all the flavour and none of it actually penetrates the meat. So you want to take quite a bit off it, but you still want some because that fat will be moisture, it'll be flavour in the long run. So
add some hickory blocks into it to start actually smoking, getting into there. I'll let that burn in my smoker for 10 minutes. I want to get this thing, the whole exterior, interior nice and hot, and then I'll start thinking about putting my produce on there, okay? It's doing there. These guys are about probably 1,500 bucks easily, and they come in bigger and smaller sizes too. But I definitely recommend Oklahoma Joe's. You've got cast iron, which holds heat really well. My one over here, which Brandon has started, is clean the meat. Then we're going to put a rub on it. It could be a salt and pepper rub. It can be a rub which we're going to go through now, which we have made specifically for you guys to use here. I break it down into the stage of that being the start of stage one, and then getting it on and getting it smoked, okay? So we've lit our thing, we get it on, we need to smoke our meat for a certain amount of time, and it gets a certain amount of colour and caramelisation on the outside. Meaning, for brisket, I want to give that 5 hours of smoke. And I want it to be a nice, real dark colour on the outside. And that's the end of my stage one. The pork ribs, I want to give that an hour, 2 hours with colour and 2 hours of smoke. The neck, maybe 3 hours. It's all kind of varied about how large the piece is. So the end of I don't go into stage two unless I've achieved my stage one. Colour and time of smoke, okay? I'm not probing it, I'm not seeing what temperature it's at. It doesn't matter to me, because my stage two is when I'm actually going to really cook the meat. Stage two, after I've completed stage one, I'm then going to wrap my meat. I'm going to do what's called a Texas crotch. I'm going to wrap it in foil, paper. I'm going to put some butter or tallow, which I cook from the offcuts of the meat, the fat. And I'm going to add some beer or cider or vegetable stock or red wine, some kind of generally alcoholic liquid. You'll have a brisket which was cooked today with beer and butter, and the pork products would have been cooked with apple cider and butter as well.
Brisket was done with butter and tallow.
There you go.
The neck was done with butter and cider, same as the ribs we did today. The brisket and the neck I did yesterday, just because they take quite a bit longer. The ribs only take about 4 or 5 hours, which was those this morning. They're sitting in there, but yeah, everyone has their own crutching liquids. I generally don't use a lot of alcohol for crutching. I will generally go for other flavours such as tallow, butter, stocks.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's each to their own home. I use apple cider because apple goes well with pork, and that just makes sense. And then beer and beef is a good match for me, and I'll just generally do that. I mean, I cook this every week now, so it's just routine for me. And then, so I guess stage two is the crutching, adding that liquid, wrapping up nice and tightly, which you've seen that the guys are in here. And then we're basically cooking that to the temperature we want it to be cooked to be edible, okay? So a brisket, I'm gonna smoke that for 5 hours, then I'm gonna crutch it and cook it again in the same temperature zone for 4 or 5 hours again, until that guy is ready. How do I know it's ready? I'm gonna put a temperature probe in it, and I wanna cook it to 90 degrees Celsius, okay? That means it's at the perfect temperature to eat, to slice, not fall apart, so it's not overcooked.
Awesome. You're Wade, and I need one more.
Like a bit of meat in my
Awesome. So we're going to rub these down with our Fuego spice rubs. So we're going to start with.
Go for it. Full whack.
I'm not scared.
And just a gentle.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
A steak most definitely.
And roll those chaps.
Is that enough there?
But I imagine if you probably, it might save you an hour's worth of cooking time.
I just pat down once I've done that. Yep.
What cut is this?
That's the neck, pork neck.
Pork neck.
Yep,
Okay,
or Boston butt as well as it's called. But it's literally coming from the neck of the pork there.
and just roll it. There you go.
Yeah, we're just patting the rub in, basically, we call it. Yep.
Go in and we introduce moisture back during the crutching phase Perfect. So we have this one.
I'm going to show you guys over here how to start the stage 3 now, which means we're going to rebark this pork neck, which means we're about 10-15 minutes away from you guys having a snack. Okay? So
A little bit of sugar. The sugar will actually.
Granddad joke,
The sugar will help bind it all together, especially once we add the mop sauce onto the pork.
Caster sugar.
Just caster. That sweetness will cut through the acidity and of the.
a pretty good little snack for you guys, and if it's not, you can go home. I'll eat the brisket. Alright, so we're going to add a little bit. You're going to stir it with the forks for me. Mate, put the bit down, come on. So we're going to add a little bit of time. We want to stir it together, make sure it's just bind it. Probably going to need a little bit more, but I always add less at the start because you can't really take it out. Go again. You want every kind of bit to be coated in it. Pac-Man style. So I'm going to use the knife and cut it straight down the middle here. I'm going to open it up and then I want to scrape out all the membrane and all the seeds, okay? We're going to get that cheese, we're going to stuff it into there, and then we're going to wrap the guys in bacon. Now you can play, like my mates play a game of Russian roulette, leave a few seeds and membranes in there, one or two, and see who gets lucky. Or we can be gentle and we can be nice and take all of the inside out. Oh, yeah, I'll big box.
Put a bit of muscle in it. Just watch your thumb there.
What I'm going to do is just make a boat, essentially, and let it sit in the boat so it rebarks itself. If I try to take it out when it's fully cooked, it's going to probably fall apart. Very difficult to take out when it's fully cooked that, right? So you can see the colour that was on there from stage 1. It's obviously the moisture is moistened it up there and taken away that texture and that bark on the outside, which we're looking for. Now, how do we can obviously serve a rack whole, but we can also cut it in a way that we can get maximum meat out of it. So I want to cut either side of the bone. I want to lose one of the bones, and I want to have meat on 2 sides of the ribs. I don't want.
Got a little bit of a smoke ring, which is nice and tender all the way through. So I'm going to cut these in half. Okay. You can see that chink around the edge. That's your smoke ring.
Yeah.
You want that
It's also
nice.
because we cheesed it in the first stage.
More smoke you infuse. So we've got the barbecue sauce right there, the bourbon barbecue. We've got our corn. We've got our jalapeno poppers. Do we have our non-bacon one?
Yep, some smoke.
Perfect. We've got some slaw left over from lunch. I think we've got a bit of pulled pork left over there as well. So we've got flat on one side, which is this side here. Make sure you grab some of both muscle. And I'm just going to finish up the points.
So guys,
yeah.
you're going to go inside and have a feed now. Please grab a plate, grab yourself a couple of ribs, some brisket and a bit of that and go inside. We've got a table all the way down the end in the cafe.